live to tape?
This is Millennial Season 2, Episode 1 for January 13th, 2016. I'm Andrew.
I'm Elisa.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Matt.
Isn't this exciting? A new year, a new season.
We made it.
Yeah.
We did it,
guys.
Everybody apparently survived the new year. We'll get to that in a moment. But this is since it is the start of a new season, we have new segments planned. We have new games planned. We have
New hosts.
Introducing Matt and Laura and Elisa and me. No, we have a lot of cool stuff planned for everybody. We hope everybody had a nice New Year's. I'm just going to start right off with a new segment we have. We're doing a new game in Season 2 called Guess Who's Drinking. One of the hosts have been selected to drink throughout the course of this episode, and you listeners all have to guess who it is. That person may stumble over their words. They may say regrettable things.
Like every episode, so...
I was going to say, how is that different from any other episode we do?
Well, it may be extra regrettable. I don't know. But, so one of us is drinking. Listeners, listen carefully, and we will reveal who it is on the next episode. Maybe everybody can talk in the group, in the Facebook group, or on social media to figure out who was drinking. So, little side game. So, how was everybody's New Year's? Laura, what did you do over New Year's?
I had a really good time. So on actual New Year's Eve, I was a total loser, and I played Settlers of Catan with my parents because I didn't want to go out. So we had a really good time doing that. But after that, we went to Universal Studios, and that was a ton of fun. I finally got to see Diagon Alley on the Universal side, which I've been dying to see ever since they built it. And I also got to meet up with some Millennial listeners at the Three Broomsticks.
How did that go?
Yeah, it was so much fun.
You said that one of them was a conservative?
Yeah, actually, one of them identified as a Republican. I don't want to call this person out just in case they don't want to be called out, but totally, we had a really good discussion, and it was just a lot of fun. We didn't talk about the show all that much. We talked about other things. These people all have really cool lives, and quite frankly, they're a lot more interesting than we are. So I just enjoyed hearing them talk about what they're doing. You know, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure it sounded like everybody else had better lives when you said you played Settlers of Catan.
I know. What is that game like?
It's
exactly
amazing.
What is it? No, but what is it actually? Don't say it's amazing, because I know it's not.
So here's the thing, Matthew. There are just too many rules to outline right here. You'll fall asleep. So I'll tell you later.
What
and
did
you are
do, Matt?
selling this game to me. I actually didn't do really much of anything. I don't do that many things on New Year's. I got bored, and I didn't expect to be home. I drove my little sister and my nephew, her son, home. And I got home really, really early, and I just decided to watch some of the movies that I haven't watched yet. So I watched The Revenant, I watched The Big Short, and I baked some cookies.
Is it true Leo gets raped by a bear in The Revenant?
In a sense, yeah.
What?
Have you guys seen it?
No.
No, he doesn't not actually, but...
Drudge Report.
It gets pretty messed up. It's a pretty gory film.
Drudge Report, a major online media outlet, reported that Leonardo DiCaprio gets, quote, raped by a bear. And the poor studio had to come out and say, no, he doesn't get raped by a bear.
No, but in a way, he got really fucked up.
Yeah. I guess I need to see this movie to find out how they could have misconstrued.
Oh, they totally did it just to get attention.
Oh yeah, they just did it in the sense you would use it as a slang term for getting really fucked up.
This is
That's a little weird.
My wish for us as a show is that we can somehow get a major movie studio to release a statement saying, no, guys, no, that's not what happened.
No, Bella's stove was not on.
No, exactly. No, he wasn't raped by a goat. All right. Calm down. I'll consider this show a success once that happens.
What was your New Year's like, Elisa?
I became a mage.
What's that?
What?
So I got for Christmas I got an Xbox One, and I got this fucking fantastic new game called Dragon Age Inquisition. It's like the third in a series of games. I haven't played the first two, but it's fucking awesome. And I chose to play as a mage, which is basically like a wizard. Like you have magical powers, all right? And so I spent my break just leveling the fuck up and taking out some demons. It was fantastic.
Wait, what is it called?
It's called Dragon Age Inquisition.
The nerdiest name
I
for a
did
video
not
game
expect
ever.
that.
It's,
No one expects the Dragon Inquisition.
Very nice.
Listen, this shit is legit. I'm serious. Like the cutscenes are like straight from a movie. I mean, it's very Lord of the Rings. If you're a fan of like realistic fantasy like that, I would check it out.
My New Year's Eve was very regrettable. I was in Vegas, which I normally do for New Year's Eve because it's just fun. And I decided that I would do a special thing on my Snapchat where I would add to my Snap story every drink that I had that evening, and that I'd be able to look back on it the next day, and like it'd be fun because I numbered the drinks and I added a timestamp so you could see my progression throughout the night and how fast I'm drinking. And I think it subconsciously encouraged me to drink more than I normally would, because I ended the night with 15 beers and a couple champagnes. And I went to bed that night fine. I had gambled a little bit. I didn't make any regrettable gambling decisions. I totally felt fine. I was energized. I didn't want to throw up. I wake up the next morning and I am dead to the world. I cannot move. I cannot turn over without feeling sick to my stomach and ready to barf. I was just completely destroyed. I threw up 4 to 5 times. I was literally laying in bed till 7 or 8 o'clock that night because I couldn't stand up without wanting to vomit more. It was just an absolute disaster, and I couldn't even look at my Snap story because I was so disgusted by myself.
Sounds like you had a good night.
I thought about following your Snap story, but I was way too busy like trading wheat and like bricks and stuff. So I was having a lot more fun here in Shea Tea than it sounds like you were having.
Oh yeah, now I have no proof though. It was all for nothing. But yeah, other than that, I didn't really do anything else. So yeah, that was New Year's for all of us. So with the new year, we have some new plans for Millennial and our Patreon, right, Elisa?
Yeah, so we have a few exciting plans for our Patreon, and we've really revamped this. I'm pretty stoked about it. So it kind of comes in 2 parts. Number 1, we have new Patreon milestones. So every time we reach a certain level of donations, we will do one of these awesome things. We still have all the old milestones. They're still in place. Our next one is movie commentary, which you guys will help us choose which movie. The one I'm really excited about is host challenges, where the listeners tell us, they give us a challenge, something really embarrassing to do, and we have to record it and do it. So all these old ones are still in place. But we've added a few others too. So, for example, one of our new milestones is that After Dark will become a full hour-long episode. And I'm pretty excited for that one because I think we have the idea that After Dark is sort of going to become its own thing. It's going to sort of organically grow into its own show that's related to Millennial, but it's not just going to be, Millennial main show leftovers. We're going to have its own individual unique segments. So that's one of the new milestones. Another new one is the Millennial Tour is now also going to include a 12-hour live show, Kill Me Now, in addition
Why?
On Google Hangout.
On Google Hangouts, right. So in addition to the East Coast stop and the West Coast stop, a 12-hour live show. That way everybody can join. We realized that some people might feel a little bit left out, and we wanted to just have an excuse to get really fucked up with you guys. So those are the new milestones. You can check them all out, millennialshow.com. But we also have restructured the benefits that come with being a patron as well. So all $2 patrons will now receive access to 1 episode of Hashing It Out and 1 episode of After Dark every single month. So before, The primary benefit of donating $2 a month was that you got to be part of Surprise Bitch. Now you actually get access to one of the 4 bonus contents, the After Dark and the Hashing It Out. I think that's pretty cool. Also, $10 benefit. We are ready to announce that last year the benefit was getting an exclusive Millennial t-shirt. This year the benefit is going to be posters. We've decided... it sounds kind of lame when I say it like that, but we've decided posters.
You were so excited when you said it.
But I am, because we've talked about this a lot, and it's not just going to be like, the logo. It's going to be a sort of quote cloud design with some of our best, funniest, not so bright moments from the show. Some of the highlights from the show, good and bad, and it's going to be, it's going to be like a best of situation, and we're working with our lovely Joe Fidel now to get that design.
Laura's lovely.
Laura's boyfriend, right? So those are the new benefits, and if you're interested in that, we've actually just made an installment of After Dark free for everyone. So one of our recent After Darks from right before the break, we've released that. Whether you're a patron or not, you can go check it out without committing, just to see if it's up your alley. So you can head over to patreon.com/millennial, and it will be right there, accessible to everyone.
And one last thing on this, we came up with these new benefits and milestones based on the feedback we received through our Patreon survey. Overwhelmingly, we heard that the favorite benefit of people who support us is After Dark, so we wanted to give you guys more of that. So that's why we're going to work towards an hour-long After Dark and other cool benefits of After Dark as well. We'll talk about those more in the future, but if you want to see them right now, and I'm seriously very excited about them, you can go to millennialshow.com and click on New Year, New Goals. Okay, so moving on. It is a new year, and with every new year, there are new laws across the country. I always think it's kind of fun to review these, and no matter what state you live in, if you live in the U.S., or I guess around the world, they probably enact new laws in the new year as well. You should look them up, because who knows what things have changed over that stroke of midnight. So let's begin in Texas. This is a mix of good and bad laws, and I want to hear everybody's feedback on these. This one, for us liberal millennials, is a little scary. Texas has begun open carry for its 826,000 licensed gun holders. However, shop owners can ban open carry from their stores. So now if you're in Texas, you will see people openly carrying their guns with, one of those holsters in their pocket. It's going to look like the Wild West out there. They aren't the first state to do this. Arizona does it right now. I live close to Arizona, and every time I'm over there, it's always a little scary to see these signs in the window shops that say, "Don't open carry in here." It's a scary reminder that people are actually walking around with guns. So,
yeah, I mean, we have open carry laws here in Georgia as well. And after some of those were passed a couple of years ago, they had several incidents of a bunch of jackasses just walking around with their guns in public because they could. Like, not for any particular reason, just to show that they could do it. There was a little league baseball team in my county, actually, where the parents actually hid them in a dugout and formed a human barricade around it because this asshole was walking around a park with a gun.
Oh man,
we had some guy bring an AR-15 into the airport one time just because he could. It's like, come on.
That shouldn't be allowed. Moving on. California and Oregon will become the first states that automatically register eligible voters when they obtain or renew their driver's licenses. So this is great. We always try to figure out ways to encourage people to vote, encourage people to register to vote. Here's a very simple way. We live in this technologically advanced era. We should be able to do things like this. Now, if you're in California and Oregon, you will be able to automatically register to vote when you update your driver's license. So that's cool.
Great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It should be done in every state, honestly. It should be one thing that we shouldn't have to worry about doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one problem though, and it's not necessarily a problem with this kind of program, but a lot of states like Alabama was in the news a lot last year. You guys probably saw this, where they were shutting down most of the DMVs in counties that were majority black. So making it damn near impossible for black communities to go and like get their identifications and their driver's licenses.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's like if you tie, like the state could theoretically tie something like that to getting your driver's license, but then say, oh, look, like it doesn't work in these places.
Yeah.
Because they don't have DMVs there. So there's another problem that needs to be addressed, I think, in regards to this, but we can talk about that later.
Next law, Hawaii is becoming the first state to raise its minimum age from 18 to 21 to buy or use cigarettes or e-cigarettes. I'm really into this one because cigarette usage has been fading, but I think it's important to raise the age to discourage people from having the temptation and making it harder for the younger kids to do it. And also, e-cigarettes are really popular right now. People love to vape. People love these e-cigarettes because they're easy, they're clean, they're easy to get away with indoors. And really, I mean, I know we have some cigarette smokers and e-cigarette smokers who listen to this show, but I think this is a good step towards discouraging people from even starting. So, props to Hawaii for that.
Yeah, Elisa's going to be in Hawaii in a couple of days, so I'm really excited that this is going to sort of like discourage her from smoking.
Yeah,
I'm gonna report about it from the front lines, like Don Lemon. And I'm gonna interview like random passerby in like super dramatic fashion.
Okay.
That's gonna be my blog for January.
There's obviously a smell of marijuana in the air.
There's marijuana in the air here.
But not from
21.
kids.
Well, in a win for everybody who's sick of that fucking Sarah McLachlan commercial, animal cruelty is now a Class A felony, thank God. Cases of animal cruelty fall into 4 categories: neglect, intentional abuse and torture, organized abuse, such as dogfighting, and sexual abuse of animals. All 4 of those things are now Class A felonies, and which is incidentally the highest level of felony that you can get. This is now being run, or animal abuse cases are now being run by the FBI, and it's awesome because it means they can track animal abusers in their database. So once you're caught and your name, your social security number, all of that is going into a database, and you're going to get random checkups, motherfucker. So I'm stoked for this.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I know. And of course, because it's the FBI, this is the whole country. This isn't one of those state by state piecemeal things. This is like, I don't care where you live, we're fucking coming for you.
Good.
And of course, besides the morality argument, the FBI justifies it by saying that psychological studies show that nearly 70% of violent criminals began by abusing animals. And so it's a great way for them to sort of get ahead of the curve and make sure that they're getting violent criminals before they start murdering people.
Mm-hmm. And sidebar on this one, pet owners in Illinois could face up to a year in jail and $2,500 in fines if they leave animals outside in an extremely hot or cold weather.
Good.
Wow. There's also another side note, too, is that recently Las Vegas put a ban on the sale of pets from puppy mills and other breeders.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great year. Great year for that shit. Also, over the break, so now it is illegal. You know those tiny little plastic beads that you find in like soaps and face washes and things like that? They're now illegal. So on Monday, December 28th, President Obama signed into law a ban on those tiny little plastic particles in personal hygiene products under the Microbead Free Waters Act of 2015.
It sounds so ridiculous, though.
It sounds vapid as fuck, but it's important. And it was passed by the House on December 7th. He signed it into law, and so now it's illegal to manufacture those. The reason being is because the tiny plastic beads have been shown to filter through our municipal water treatment systems. So we're not catching it. We're fucking drinking it. It's showing up in our meat because our animals are eating it, and it's not digesting in them either. Like those little things. Yeah, they're indestructible.
Although, if they're what I'm thinking, I kind of like them. Like when I wash my face, it feels like I'm really getting a good scrub.
Yeah, they're gonna buy.
Well, then what about those apricot scrubs? Isn't that biodegradable?
Yeah, that's different because those are sand. That's sand.
So you can use that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Use that instead. Stop using that Neutrogena shit.
All right. I'll keep sanding my face then. Good. and two more from Illinois. First of all, this is a good one concerning conversion therapy. A controversial measure that attempts to make gay youth straight will be banned for minors in Illinois. I think that's going to be a big issue coming up over the next couple of years. We've seen people move to get rid of that horse shit. And finally, pumpkin pie will become Illinois' official state pie.
Wait, this is a law?
Yeah. It's a new law. So
Why?
Next time you're in Illinois, whip out some pumpkin pie.
Wait, each state has its own pie?
Yes.
Yes.
Their own pie, their own flower, their own bird.
Oh my god.
Their own face wash.
What's California's? The official... Oh, it doesn't say. That's great.
Well, that'll be the new law in 2017. So we have a new game here for Season 2. This is called Wait, But Why? And we have a fun intro for it. Are you ready for this? This is the start of new intros. I won't intro the intros after this one. Here we go. You guys ready? This is going to sound like a professional program. Here we go. It's called Wait, But Why? If you couldn't make out what those people were crying about in the intro.
Well, what is it?
Shouldn't the intro have explained that?
No. And I made it.
I think the idea behind Wait But Why is there are a lot of things that we do, that everyone does as a society, as a culture, that once you think about it a little more deeply, makes just zero fucking sense. And we talk about this stuff a lot, but we never had a dedicated segment to point these sorts of things out and discuss them. So, for example, what's really the difference between showing a man's nipple on TV, which is totally cool, but a woman's nipple? Is it just like the fact that there's a little bit of fat surrounded by it? Mm-hmm. Like, what if the guy happens to just be, overweight and has a little bit of fat there? Is that not cool now? So there's weird little cultural nuances. And today, our first installment of Wait But Why is brought to you by circumcision, because moments after a newborn's first breath, nothing says welcome to the human experience quite like hacking apart their genitals. If there's one thing historians know for certain about the origin of circumcision, it's that we don't know much for certain about the origin of circumcision. There are a lot of different theories about it because there are many different accountings of ancient human history, but the first documented circumcision comes from ancient Egypt. The medical notes detail the process and give us some insight into its original intent and meaning. Perhaps the most important point to make here is that according to the ancient Egyptian medical texts, circumcision did not originally occur when the boy was an infant. In fact, the average age was 11 to 12. What we also know is that Egyptians performed it in ritual ceremonies wherein the boy was said to become a man. Now, why ripping off part of the penis was thought to be important to becoming a man, no one quite knows. Many often theorize it was for hygienic purposes, so that the newly ordained man didn't spread STDs as easily, or have to worry about sand becoming pearls up in his gonads. But Robert Darby, a doctor and medical historian, published the preeminent paper on this topic in the New Zealand Medical Journal. And he says that while hygiene is the most cited hypothesis for circumcision, there is no historical or indeed medical basis for that theory. He wrote, quote, "The only point of agreement among medical historians is that promoting good health had nothing to do with it." So while it began as a rite of passage for unfortunate 11-year-olds in ancient Egypt, it's important to fast forward a little bit to the reign of Alexander the Great. By the time he was done conquering, the African continent had had enough of his shit and developed a deep loathing for Greek people as a result. And before he came around, the practice of circumcision was still not common at all. But after he conquered the continent and pillaged every town along the way, the journals of local African and Middle Eastern religious leaders tell us that it suddenly became a super cool cultural fad to nip the tip, because Africans and Middle Easterners wanted a surefire way to distinguish their men from Greek men. It was about ensuring that the Semitic peoples didn't intermarry with non-Semitic peoples, even if only by accident. So it spread rapidly as a means of kind of saying fuck you to Alexander the Great and making sure that their daughters weren't having none of that intermarriage business. And that is why Genesis 17:11, the Old Testament text referencing circumcision, calls it a token of the covenant, symbolizing the covenant between Abraham and God, because that was how it happened. The religious leaders who were making those journals infused it into religious text. And it's hard to argue with God, so the rest they say is history. Going back to the theory really quickly that circumcision is done for hygienic or medical benefits, it's important to note that theory was not supported by any research or data and didn't even become a popular rationalization for the procedure until 1855. That year, English physician Jonathan Hutchison published the first ever medical study on circumcision benefits and concluded that it does lower the rate of STD transmission. However, he came to this conclusion by studying the rate of STDs within the Jewish community in London versus the rate of STDs in Gentile communities in London. And his method has since been completely debunked because he failed to implement any controls whatsoever. So, for example, you could say, well, the reason that the Jewish community didn't experience as many STDs, not so much because of circumcision, but probably because they were far more religious and didn't have sex before marriage. Still, his findings became a permanent fixture of Western culture, even without any basis in actual science. So, that is the history of circumcision. And I want to talk, what are your thoughts on this? Particularly the boys. I mean, you're the ones with the dicks. So,
It's true.
Well, first
what
of all,
do you guys think?
You know a lot about circumcisions for somebody who doesn't have a dick, so I applaud you for that. I think you have a deep underlying hatred for circumcision, it sounds like to me.
I went in the field and did a lot of studying. So.
You did. Got up nice and close, peeled back the layers.
A lot of field work.
I think the reason that it's become the norm here in America especially is that this is just what culture has gotten used to. It seems weird to not have a cut dick at this point. And personally, I am not, as a gay man, I am not attracted to the uncut dick.
And that's fine.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Because I think, let's see. I mean, I think the reason why most of the people in the U.S. are circumcised is a lot to do with the fact that many people still think that it is much more cleaner and lesser risk of infection, which is actually true, I guess. But I think a lot of men tend to wish that they were not circumcised because it actually cuts off a lot of nerve endings. And I mean, I don't have any way of comparing it because once you get cut, like fuck, you're done.
So they say with an uncut dick, apparently I guess you would have a better orgasm because of all that extra force.
Yeah, you definitely feel it more. I think that. I mean, what about you? What about you girls? Do you prefer circumcised penis or not?
Yeah, have you blown uncut dick?
Yes.
Okay. Do you do it? I'm genuinely curious. Do you do it differently?
No.
Oh.
No.
Don't you have?
What?
You don't have to do anything differently?
Not. I mean, I'm not super comfortable like getting into the nitty-gritty details of this, but not really. I mean, what you're talking about is the presence of an extra fold of skin, basically. And to me, like as a woman, it makes zero difference, honestly, to me. So,
I want to know why circumcision is so big in the United States as opposed to anywhere else in the world.
I think that a lot of it has to do with fathers thinking because a lot of times the decision is left up to the father, right? And the thought is like, well, he should look like me, right? Like,
yeah, that's one of them. I was researching too, and that's actually one of the top reasons is that a lot of parents would prefer that their child not feel like they look different than their father. But then,
Son, I want your dick to look like mine.
I can't tell. I mean, I don't know if I'm
weird.
weird. I don't know if I had a different upbringing than you guys, but I never saw my parents naked at the same time as me. I'm like,
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it's sort of just being you want your son to carry on the traditions of your family.
Genital
I suppose.
mutilation.
They want to pass down the cut dick.
I think it's also a question of like, why do we do so many things? Like, why do our parents make all kinds of decisions for us that we don't understand? They make these decisions because they were the decisions that were made for them, and they worked out okay for them. Like, I have a feeling that a lot of men are like, my life has, I don't feel like my life has been, I don't feel like I've had anything taken away from me as a result of being circumcised. So why don't I do this for my son? And I also think that, as Elisa said, that the myth about cleanliness and the decreased rates of STD infections have really just lived on and on and on, even though they're not true. Like, teach your kid how to wash his dick. Like, I don't
just pull back some of the skin and wash it.
Yeah.
But also, it does say that circumcision really lowers the risk of UTIs, urinary tract infections too.
Well, okay, so this brings me to the fact that recently, actually, the American Association of Pediatrics came out. They didn't recommend circumcision, but they did say that they thought that it was more hygienic because then you don't have to worry so much about getting up in them folds and yada, yada, yada. So, and that caused a lot of controversy. Here's my thing. There are many things that we could do to our bodies that would be more hygienic. We could cut off our hands and not have to wash them either. I mean, the dirtiest part of our bodies is our hands. They're forever touching everything. Mm-hmm. But that's not in and of itself a good enough reason to do something. And the point of this segment is to be asking, but why? I think we know that it's a cultural phenomenon. I think we know that there's an aesthetic proclivity for circumcised dick, at least in Western culture, at least in the United States there is. We know that. But then if we know that's the reason, and we also know that there's no real medical benefits that necessitate it, why do we still do it? That's the why. That's the why there.
We need to, here's how we fix this. We need to normalize uncut dicks. I propose that the Millennial album art have a giant uncut dick on its cover, so we can normalize that. Mm-hmm. And then our listeners will pass down Millennial Challenge. All listeners must not cut off the foreskin on their future babies.
Well,
what about you guys? Like, would you have your child circumcised?
No. Yes. Because here's the thing is also when we fuck with a woman's genitals, we call it mutilation. Mm-hmm. And of course, I understand that a lot of genital mutilation towards women is actually, some of it is really fucking grotesque and is not remotely the same as circumcision. So I'm not talking about, for example, removing the clitoris or anything horrific like that. But for example, I do think a reasonable comparison is the labia or the clitoral hood. It's the exact same thing. I mean, men aren't the only ones who are born with extra folds. What about our labia? And plenty of women have really, really long, prominent labia, and everyone has a clitoral hood. Why don't we remove that?
Well,
I'm sorry, Laura, go ahead.
I was going to say the disturbing thing is that a lot of times when those parts are removed, in cultures that practice female genital mutilation, cleanliness is what is cited.
Exactly.
Right? Because, I mean, yeah, if you don't have any labia, I guess it's easier to keep clean.
Wait,
there's nothing there.
But
so imagine,
is that more cosmetic, though, or does that also have to do with a lot, like with the same reason as circumcision, though?
No. My point is that imagine you have you have two children, you give birth to twins, one's a boy, one's a girl, and the doctor comes in and says, we're going to circumcise your boy and we're going to cut off the inner labia of your girl. If your reaction to that is different depending on the gender, I would encourage you to ask why, because it's just excess skin. It's not strictly necessary, and removing it on both will help the hygiene. So ask yourself why. What's the real difference? And if you're uncomfortable with one, I might say you should be uncomfortable with the other.
But I would...
Laura?
Yeah, sorry. I would also say, too, like, we don't mean this to say that there's something wrong with being circumcised. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being circumcised.
Yeah, you're damn right.
Because, I mean, there's not. Like, really, in terms of, I think you and Matt have both spoken to this. You guys don't really feel like it's negatively impacted you. And so I don't want it to seem like I don't want to make it seem like we're trying to tell you that you should feel like betrayed or whatever by your parents. I don't think that's the case. But I do think it's something you should possibly consider why you would do it before you do it.
We're talking about it as a cultural phenomenon. I've only been with circumcised, so
yeah. I just find it really interesting that it's very prominent in the U.S., but anywhere else it's not.
Yeah, well, it's become the norm, and we need to normalize uncut dick. So let's see more of it in porn. Let's see more of it in podcast album art.
Just trust
me. Let's see, Andrew.
There's nothing wrong with those either.
Here's what you can do, Andrew.
Test that.
If you can just like boil a noodle and then like wrap it around yourself and Snapchat that. No.
That is not what it looks like.
Make that Instagram. Make that part of Instagram, and then you will help normalize it.
Okay. I'm trying to grow my Snapchat follower base, so I'll do it on there.
Great way of doing it.
On username Andrew Sims.
I know someone whose parents saved it.
Well, that's wrong.
Yeah, but he was also Jewish. Like, it was like during a bris and everything. Like, they actually have like not like a party, but it's a ceremony, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. Elisa, that was a great segment. I'm looking forward to doing more of those. Sometimes without body parts involved.
Yeah, but like my dick's just for show at this point.
Why do we have two balls? All right. It's time for a returning segment, Quickfire News. Quickfire News. Look at that. That's another intro.
Oh man, this is so sexy. I'm so excited. All right. So the way the way that Quickfire News works for anybody who might be new to the show is we go through a few stories that have happened over the last week, in this case over the holiday break, and go through them in 2 minutes or less each. So, somebody have a timer?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, our first story is one of domestic terrorism. Al-Qaeda's Oregon affiliate, Al-Qaeda, also known as Vanilla ISIS, occupied a wildlife refuge in protest of the pending imprisonment of ranchers Dwight Hammond and his son Stephen Hammond, who were convicted on charges of arson in 2012 for unlawfully setting fire to federal land after setting bushfires to clear grazing land without the required permit. Mind you, this occupation has been going on for 10 days now. And the group, who are now calling themselves Citizens for Constitutional Freedom, say they're going to have an exit strategy ready by this Friday. How many days do you guys think this would have gone on if a group of black militiamen took over a federal building?
Right. And how quick would Anderson Cooper have been there if it was taken over by a minority?
We can always tell how serious a story is depending on how quickly Anderson arrives.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew has his Anderson meter, and he's just constantly watching where in the world Anderson is.
Oh, you're not kidding. I was so turned on when he showed up in Paris that night.
Oh, my God.
But this Oregon takeover, it was a total mess from the beginning. The guys forgot to bring food and other necessities. They had to ask people to bring it on over. It's embarrassing. It's pathetic.
They asked people to mail them snacks using the U.S. Postal Service, which is part of that government that they hate so damn much. And I also heard, my mother brought this up to me today. She was like, hey, did you know that somebody sent those crazies in Oregon like a huge bag of dildos? Was that Millennial? Did you guys do that? I was like, not to my knowledge.
Maybe that's like John Oliver, and we're going to hear about it whenever he comes back from break.
Oh man. Anything else to add on that before we move on?
I don't know. I thought it was really funny that Michelle Obama did like a little picture saying like, "I hope they're healthy snacks" or something, because she does the whole
Yeah, she wants people to
Muppets,
eat better.
the Sesame Street thing for like promoting healthy foods and veggies.
Did she do that? I didn't see
Yeah,
that.
it was
That's funny.
really funny. I think she did it on Instagram or something.
All right, time's up.
All right. So moving on, some really sad news from Monday. King of glam rock, David Bowie, passed away at age 69 after a secret 18-month battle with liver cancer. I've been a Bowie fan since I was a kid, but I feel like even those who weren't fans recognize the impact he's had on the music world. We were all talking about this yesterday, and y'all know that I was in mourning, so I'll ask, how did you take the news?
Yeah, it was really sad. I mean, like you said, he was battling cancer and we didn't know about it, so this came out late at night, and it was just people were wondering at first, was it a hoax? But it was very real, and I've been listening to his music again on Spotify to reappreciate the artist. You always do that when somebody major dies, and you really, when you listen to his body of work, you remember just how many fantastic songs he put together,
Yes.
and what a unique performer he was. And what's especially eerie was that he just turned 69 this past Friday, and on his birthday he released a new album, his 25th album called Black Star, and on it is a song called Lazarus, in which he references his own death. And we heard from the producer after he died, and he said that Bowie knew that this was going to be his final album. So just an amazing career start to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the Lazarus video?
Yeah, I
he's
did.
in
It
a
was
hospital
it
bed.
was so sad. It was really
Yeah.
but it was very much like it's very David Bowie to do what he did.
I agree. I
And-
think...
Like, I did not like David Bowie when I was younger. Like, even as a teenager, I didn't really get it. Like, my parents really loved David Bowie, but I didn't understand like why he didn't have the great songs. Like, in a sense, like from like a third party perspective, like as a kid, I did not think these were good songs. But when I grew up as an adult, I really started to listen to the lyrics and really appreciate what he was saying and what he did for the whole glam rock genre. He's a very important artist, and any artist really that you are a fan of right now took a lot from David Bowie.
Yeah.
And I think you really have to respect the man for what he did to rock and roll, to music. He was very influential.
Yeah, I think it was his producer who said that just like everything else in his life, his death was a work of art as well. So just as a fan, I just want to say, even though I'm not like a religious person, I just want to say Godspeed. Because like his music, I don't know, like I grew up with it and it did have an effect on me. So
Good.
very, very sad news.
I bet he had an uncut dick.
And he and I share
Anyway,
he and I share the heterochromia gene, where we both have different colored eyes.
Oh.
So
That's true.
In other news, in
heroes.
international news now, China is building the world's first mass animal cloning factory, set to begin construction later this year. The factory will clone and slaughter cows, pigs, chickens, and other commonly consumed meats to help China feed their growing population, / their growing population crisis. So, I don't know. This rubs me the wrong way, not for the cloning issue and eating cloned meat, frankly, but for what it means for the animals. There's no way you can mass produce animals and treat them with any kind of treat them humanely. I mean, they're going to be in tiny ass little crates because they're seen as just commodities and as just a means for us to be like feeding ourselves. It's not. And
this
China,
is it, guys. This is it.
China
This is how it
has
starts.
such fucking terrible history of human rights, let alone animal rights. I mean, those animals are just doomed from the beginning. It's going to be awful.
Well, and I think the thing is, even if you can't get on board with this from an animal rights perspective, we all know that cloned animals experience significantly shorter life expectancies than regular animals, and they also encounter far more illness. So can cloned meat really be safe for consumption?
Yeah. No. I mean,
Yeah, that too.
It's just a disgusting thought, and I don't think anybody, if they knew they were eating cloned meat, would be okay with that.
I
let
mean,
alone how poorly treated they'll be.
I'm surprised that this was the route that they're going because recently, especially within the past 5 or 6 years, I think it was in the Netherlands or something, where scientists were creating a synthetic meat that actually tastes, cooks the same as real like animal meat, and so we don't have to kill or mass produce animals, but we're going into now cloning of actual animals just for the sole purpose of us eating it, just for This is how all those science fiction stories start, anyways.
Yeah, this is the beginning of
this.
The end.
This is how it starts.
It's all over, guys.
I'm not surprised it was in China.
Time's up. Beep 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 beep.
Beginning of the end, also in Kentucky, Kim Davis, the county clerk who refused to issue same-sex marriage licenses, has had a statewide victory, actually. Due to her efforts, clerks' names will no longer appear on the marriage licenses because Davis successfully argued that it could be construed as supporting the marriage itself. So Kentucky's governor issued an edict saying that county clerks must still issue same-sex licenses, but that the clerks themselves or anyone else involved do not have to have their names associated with any part of the process.
You know, I kind of agree with this because it's like, why does her name need to be on that license?
It doesn't need to be on the license, but a good way to get it off would just be to quit.
No, but
Right,
I mean, not just her name, but any name. Why does it need to be on the license?
At this point, it seems like she's just splitting hairs. She wants to get some kind of effort, some kind of victory done. Like, who cares?
I think, much like circumcision, this is just cosmetic. Like, you're still issuing the fucking lice.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm fine with it because she won the battle, but we won the war. So
Yeah, that's true.
go fuck yourself, Kim Davis.
All I'm seeing right now is Kim Davis, but with a foreskin penis instead of a face.
You mean all you're seeing is Kim Davis?
Yeah, that too.
Anything else to say about that? Because then I got a killer transition.
No, you killed that transition.
Okay, great.
You kill it.
Maybe she did win the war because she's the one who's showing up at the State of the Union tonight.
Ugh.
And one of the things Obama will be touting or pushing for during his State of the Union address is gun control. Just last week, he announced some executive action orders to make some progress on gun control. You know, he's been in office for almost 8 years now, and he still really hasn't gotten anything done, despite all the horrible mass shootings that have happened amongst all the other smaller shootings. So here's what he's done with executive action. First, he wants to keep guns out of the wrong hands through improved background checks. These background checks will now cover gun shows and internet gun purchases, two areas that haven't required background checks. For fun, recently, I actually went to a gun website and went through the ordering process to see what it was like. And you pick your gun and you say where you are, and then it says, okay, this gun will be available to you at this gun shop, and then you pay. It's really eerie how easy it is to buy a gun as if you're ordering some toilet paper on Amazon. Number 2. He wants to make our community safer from gun violence. This part of the order won't change the laws, but it will urge law enforcement to enforce the existing laws and give federal agencies more resources to do so. So there's going to be more people out there looking for people who aren't legally allowed to have guns. Number 3, he wants to increase mental health treatment and reporting to the background check system. He wants to do that by proposing a $500 million investment in improving access to mental health care. And then finally, he wants to get all iPhone on guns. He wants to shape the future of gun safety technology. He's been pressing this idea of having kind of like a Touch ID feature on guns. We have this feature on iPhones and Android devices where you put your thumb on it and it says, okay, yeah, that's you. You can use this phone. He wants to use that same type of technology for guns. And so he's been really pushing his gun agenda on America. He released an op-ed in the New York Times, where he vowed to not endorse candidates who, quote, do not support common sense gun reform, like these things he was pushing in his executive orders. He also did a CNN town hall with my boyfriend Anderson Cooper. He sat there with Anderson in Virginia, and he spoke to people who are for and against these changes. It was an hour long, or hour and a half. It was pretty interesting to watch. So do you guys think what he's doing is enough? Is this all he can do? His hands are kind of tied with Congress. Do you like what he's trying to do?
I do. Absolutely. And I think that a lot of people are kind of poo-pooing it because they're saying, well, this won't be enough from the outset. And I think he kind of countered this point beautifully. He was like, listen, we have 30,000 gun-related fatalities every year in this country. Most of them suicides. Mm-hmm. If we could even reduce that to 28,000, those are 2,000 families who aren't having to go through what some of these other families like in Newtown and San Bernardino have had to go through. So I'm really aggravated with this argument that, well, it won't fix the entire problem, so we shouldn't do it. No, we should be taking common sense steps to address the problem. And as we make progress, take another step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think a lot of people are expecting whatever comes out in this issue to be an all-encompassing solution. Mm-hmm. And it's just nearly impossible, especially at this point in our country. We just don't have, there are just not, it's just nearly impossible to try to please everybody and try to solve every problem with one law or one type of measure. It's just impossible.
In the town hall, I really liked it because it was kind of informal. It kind of felt laid back. It felt personal. Obama was really hammering home these points that you guys are making, is that we have to do something. We can't just do nothing. This is crazy. We have to be able to say that we saved some lives by making some changes. We can't just sit here and do nothing. So I really liked that. I also really liked something in the town hall he kept hammering home, and he kept repeating things, but I guess that's kind of what you have to do when you're dealing with Trump's America now, where you're dealing with total idiots who don't understand anything. You have to repeat things. He was saying that when toys are dangerous, we fix them so they're safer. When access to medicine is dangerous, we fix them so it's harder to access. When guns are dangerous, we should be doing that. We should be taking steps to fix those too. And I like that he was making those comparisons because really, as Trump has proven, we are living in a society where there are really stupid people. Yeah. And we just have to spell it out as simple as we can.
Yeah, I also really liked how when he was talking about making innovations to guns, he did bring out that there have been companies in the past who have tried to do this, but guess who has squashed their efforts? The NRA, every fucking time. He also called them out, for not being there at the town hall meeting, even though they were right down the street.
They're right down the street, but they're not here. Where are they? That sounded like Bernie Sanders, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it did, actually.
I can't do a black man. All right, so anything else to say on gun control? Nope.
Fuck yeah, rock on.
Elisa, why don't you share a new game with us here in Season 2?
So this is called Millennial for America, and this is a spin-off of something that we did a little while ago on an edition of Devil's Advocate, where everybody had to make their point, but they had to do so as though they were running for office. So this is its own segment now, and every once in a while we're going to do this. We figured this was really fitting because we're really in the thick of the elections, and it's only going to get better/worse leading up to November. So once in a while, I'm going to call on a couple of you to disseminate one of the news stories that we've been talking about on the episode as though you were running for office. So you can approach it from a couple of different angles. You can either just explain the news story as though you were giving a stump speech, or you can argue one side of the story as though you're trying to convince an audience at a presidential debate. It's up to you, but remember to put your spin hats on. I am choosing tonight. Well, number one, let's start with Laura.
Oh, boy.
I mean, I usually like to start with Laura. So
Yeah, you do. I've got the most stamina, if you know what I mean.
And by the way,
No,
I think
I
it's
don't.
okay. I think it's okay if, just like in a real presidential debate, if the rest of us want to interrupt because we're not getting our time and challenge something she's saying, that's okay in moderation. But all right, Laura, I think we're going to set a timer on this. Do we want to do 2 minutes or 3?
Let's do 2.
Yeah, let's just do 2.
All right, we'll do 2 for now. We'll take it easy on you. Fuck.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Do I just pick a story? Any story?
Any story you want. So I'll give you a second, and I'm going to set a timer here.
Okay.
All right, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, go.
My fellow Americans, I would first just like to say how grateful I am to be here. Thank you, Millennial Show and the host, for having me. It's always such a pleasure to be able to get the millennial perspective, and I'm really looking forward to trying to change your minds on this particular story because I know you have very strong feelings about it. So, China is getting ready to open the world's largest animal cloning factory. It's set to begin operations in 2016. I know that some of the points that folks have been bringing up are that, animal cruelty could potentially be an issue. Well, animal cruelty will likely not be an issue at this time. because, hear me out, these are not animals. They're clones of animals.
Oh my God.
Can you really be cruel to a clone, is my question for you. I don't think you can. Do you have any response for that, or may I continue?
You may continue.
You want us to have a response to that.
So that's my first point. The second point is a lot of people are really worried about the safety of eating cloned meat. And I would just like to bring up that here in America, we've been eating fake meat for how many years now? At least 3 or 4 decades, and we're doing okay, right?
30 seconds.
And we've got the pink slime and we've got the fake chicken at the McDonald's, and that's all okay. I think that's been working out pretty well for America. Third, I'd like to bring this up from an economic perspective. Look at how much of this meat we're going to be able to mass produce. Furthermore, by doing it in a factory setting, we can actually offset some of the really terrible carbon emissions that we've been having from basically raising animals on farms.
Time. Oh,
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm not even sure how to. This must be how everyone else on the stage feels whenever Donald Trump opens his mouth. You're just sort of dumbfounded. You're
What
like,
were your problems with that, Elisa?
would I? Well, I think. What do you mean? Where do I start? I mean, she did a good job mimicking, the talking heads, but
Okay.
the arguments just made no sense.
Okay.
Well, yeah, that's how
Wow.
it works,
How
right?
do you feel about that,
Yeah.
Laura? She
I
just
would
called
just
you an
like to-
idiot.
I would just like to bring up that I have been eating vegetarian since August, so that was equally difficult for me.
I should also say, by the way, you don't have to argue. It's not devil's advocate from the aspect of you have to argue what you don't believe. You can say what you really think. It's just you need to say it in a
No, but that was
okay.
more fun.
presidential fashion. You have to mimic. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. That was a very Ted Cruz way of approaching it. You just say whatever you think people want to hear and
Yeah,
run with it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Laura's a Ted
I should run.
Cruz.
I should run for president.
All right, Matt.
Okay.
Matt, let's see which candidate you turn out to be. Laura's Ted Cruz. Let's hope that, I don't know, you're
Okay.
not Ted Cruz. Are you ready for this? Do you have a story in mind?
No, fuck it. Let's go.
All right, ready?
Let's do it
it.
live. Fuck it.
Go.
Thank you, Elisa, for that question. Okay, first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who came in today. Let me just open my eyes a little bit so I can see my teleprompter. All right, as a surgeon and pediatrician, I have to say that I wanted to try to help educate the country in this ongoing problem that we have, and that's circumcision in males. Now, as an uncircumcised man myself, I have to say it's It's just great. It really is. There are a lot of stigmas about it. A lot of people say that there is an increased risk of certain STDs and UTIs. I have to say that this is actually false. If anything, it's less than 1% of people actually get more UTIs. I will know that firsthand. Now, as a family man, I am very keen on trying to help my son and his best friends try to make this kind of situation for them, because they did not have the same things that I had when I was growing up. They don't look at each other naked the way that my friends and I looked at each other naked, and I think that's a real problem that we need to address our children with. There is no difference in sexual sensation. I could tell you that.
How can you? But Dr. Carson, how can you actually confirm that? You've never had your dick cut.
30 seconds.
I have asked my best friends, and I personally, I can vouch for them. And if you interrupt me again, I will stab you. Now, newborns are so much more adorable when they are uncircumcised because there's no blood. They don't look as dry. They look a little more. They look adorable. Don't you think? Like when I see an uncircumcised penis, I think, well, that's my penis. That's mine.
All right, time.
Okay.
I'm calling time on
impression.
Look at that adorable infant penis. There's nothing right about that.
I mean, it wasn't too far off what you'd probably expect to hear.
Oh man, I had to mute myself because I was like,
I know.
The accent is what did it. Oh my god.
All right,
All right,
that was fun and scary.
Yeah, that was fun. Andrew, I'm going to spare you this time, but you're first up next time.
Thank God. All right, it is time now for Surprise Bitch. Of course, this segment will be continuing in Season 2. I have selected a number. Surprise Bitch!
Hello.
Yo, Zach, surprise bitch. I guess it's Millennial. What's up?
Hi.
Hey. Where are you in this wonderful America?
I'm in Indiana.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
So, we're doing our Season 2 premiere right now. New year, new season. Do you have any New Year's resolutions or anything?
Not really. Just a bunch of stuff to do. I'm getting married this year and moving out on my own this year.
Oh, congratulations.
When's the wedding, and when are we getting our save the dates?
October, and we're sending them out soon. Be waiting for them.
See, I call bullshit, because my sister's wedding is in October, and I already got that save the date, so I don't think you're actually going to invite us.
She's working too hard.
So this may be an awkward question.
Wait, before we ask you this question, can I ask you where are you right now? Are you at work? Are you at home? Are you in a private space?
I'm at my house.
All right, go for it, Andrew.
Good. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you can ask.
Oh, okay. So, what are your thoughts on circumcision? We talked about this earlier on in the episode. You know, I just figured it'd be easier. It's just like ripping off a Band-Aid. We talked about circumcision earlier on in the episode, in a news segment, whether or not it was like a cultural thing, like a medical thing. Do you have any strong feelings one way or the other?
No, not really. No.
Just no.
No.
See, we decided that it was dumb because it's kind of only a big thing here in the U.S. and there's a whole big. Well, you'll hear the episode, but there was just no good reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really don't understand the meaning or reason to do it or not to do it. I was just a baby.
That's true. He really had no say in the matter. Most of us don't.
You know?
Literally
dare
no
you,
words.
Sir. How dare you?
Would you be prone to, since, you're going through this new chapter in your life, would you consider having your children circumcised or not?
Probably just because I was.
Yep. See.
Yep, see?
That's
it right there.
That's
Case
it.
in point. Thank you, sir.
That's it.
Well,
You know what?
our season 2 album art will feature an uncut dick because we're hoping to normalize
cool.
the uncut dick. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'll make sure to show everybody that.
Yeah, please.
Recommend our podcast.
If you can
Yeah.
frame that and put it in the nursery, your first child
Sure.
or something, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
A nice
Zach.
conversation piece.
All right, Zach.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for your support and congrats on the engagement. And we'll look forward to seeing the
Thanks.
dates in the mail.
All right.
All right. Congratulations.
Talk to you later.
Thanks.
Bye,
Thank
Zach.
you. Bye.
All right, that was Zach in Indiana.
He was way too cool for us. And by the way,
Yeah.
Matt, I think that when you started asking him a question, my butthole clenched because I thought you were going to. I thought you were going to ask him if he would circumcise his wife.
What?
Wait.
because
what?
we've been talking about the difference between males and females, and I thought that that's where you were going with it. I was like, please don't ask him.
Oh my God.
Don't ask him.
No, I just can't believe you would think I would do that.
Because you would.
No, seriously,
I
I didn't
would
know what
do
you were going to
that.
ask. When you were gearing up to ask the question, I texted Elisa and went, no. No.
All right, let's hear our fun intro one more time to round out the show. Surprise, bitch! That's my favorite of the intros so far.
We're all professional and shit.
Okay, well, to wrap up the show here today, we wanted to tease a couple of things that are coming up this season. Like we introed during this episode, we have a couple of new segments. We're also going to have the return of the political bitches because this is the year to bring that back, right, girls?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
if there's ever a time
what
to
are
do
the
it.
political bitches?
Well,
Yeah,
tell
that's-
us.
That's the only thing. So, political bitches. Anyone who listened to our older podcast, Smart Mouths, will remember it. It's basically just an excuse for Laura and I to get on our high horse and rant. That's really what it is. But we try to make it funny and engaging. And the only thing I would say, we're excited to bring it back. I'm stoked for it. I have a few ideas already, but we need a different name. Political bitches it just sounds so juvenile to me, and I want something that's different and fresh for a new show. So if anyone has any ideas, cooler name for that segment, let us know.
Okay. And what else do we have coming up in the year ahead?
So we're also going to start doing some news recommendations. I think this would be cool because there's very often something that we just want to say, we want to put a feather in the cap on the end of a news story. And so we're going to start recommending things about the news at the end of the stories. So that should be fun. I'm also excited, and this was Matt's idea, about doing Ask Me Anything style interviews. So we want to do more interviews, but we really thought it would be a cool experiment to just bring on everyday people, the same way that Reddit will have Ask Me Anything sessions. It will say, I am an amputee, or I survived Vietnam War, ask me anything. It can be serious, it can be fun, but instead of just trying to target interviews to celebrities and what have you, we thought it'd be cool to just talk to you guys. So we have a few ideas in mind, but yeah, I think that's it. So, for example, I'm really interested in getting a conservative on the show and having them be like, I'm a Republican, ask me anything, and us to pick their brains, and because I think we could have a lot of good-hearted fun with that.
Yeah, I meant to ask earlier at the top of the show when Laura said one of the listeners was a Republican. And I think I told you this in private. I was surprised that person didn't kill you, didn't murder you.
Well,
Why would they murder me?
Because
I don't
you
have a problem with Republicans.
yeah, we're not anti. We're not even.
I like how Andrew
Okay.
burst out laughing.
All right.
I have a problem with Tea Party Republicans.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's fair. All right. So, thank you everybody for joining us for season 2 of Millennial. Don't forget to email us at millennialshow@gmail.com. Check out our website, millennialshow.com, with all those new Patreon benefits and milestones that we mentioned, including a fully cataloged bonus content at millennialshow.com.
I
What?
did it.
It's such a good show. It's so good.
We will talk about that coming up in After Dark. We're also going to be making some State of the Union predictions and about how Bernie Sanders is really taking over is coming up on Hillary. He's sneaking up on her behind. And don't forget,
a lot to sneak up.
After Dark, first episode of the month, now accessible for people who are pledging $2 a month. That will be this episode that will be released for those who pledge $2 or higher.
I just want to explain quickly. I wrote for listeners, I wrote makingамurderer.com instead of millennialshow.com to see if I could get Andrew to just...
No, Elisa, you didn't trick me out. I was very well aware that it was there.
No.
Yeah, that was a joke.
Bullshit.
I live in Hollywood. I'm an actor. I can pull this shit off. All right, thank you everybody for listening. Here now is Fame by David Bowie. I'm Andrew.
I'm Elisa.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Matt.
We'll see everybody next week for episode 2 of season 2. Goodbye.
Bye.